which means we're recording. We're doing this thing. This is exciting. Oh my god, Justin is here. Justin Roczniak, a.k.a. Do Not Eat, is on this show.
Hello, it's me, Justin Roczniak, a.k.a. Do Not Eat. I'm on the show.
Hooray! Excellent. So this is exciting. This is winter, which means normally there's a side-by-side view, but people are going to be upset to know that unfortunately, Justin he's not a human as we know humans to be. He is merely a voice and a mind.
Yeah, it's sort of I exist through force of will, like Omega from Doctor Who. You know, like the three doctors, if anyone remembers that. I'm just throwing in more and more Doctor Who references in the podcast recently.
This is good. Why? Is it because have you got a subscription to BritBox recently or something? I know it's on Netflix, isn't it?
I've just had Doctor Who on the mind.
We all have Doctor Who on the mind occasionally. There was a thread recently about Doctor Who, and it was like an American's first experience of Doctor Who, and I forget what Doctor Who looks like if you're not... there are so many bizarre references in every single episode, and it's so trippy. It's phenomenally trippy, as particularly the Tom Baker episodes get pretty weird. Yeah.
You remember there's one where he just murders a guy, like in cold blood, like he just snaps a guy's neck. It's hilarious.
In any case, this means that you have the disbenefit of seeing my face here. Oh, also because it's Christmas. Because it is Christmas, even though what is it? I don't even know I don't even know what the real date is. Given that it's 2020, the time has merged into one. It's not even December yet. Every day I'm brustling. It's Christmas special, very nice, and also the hat because it's a holiday special, so I have to wear the hat. I also have Sainsbury's mince pies, so there's that food that should be served all year round. In any case, let's press on with the Actually, before I do the opening thing, I need to say welcome to tonight's episode, rather than just mashing it. So I'm going to do that, because it's a very professional outfit. Justin, welcome to tonight's episode, and viewers, welcome to tonight's episode of Rail Natter. As the lovely Intercity 225 fades out, we go on to a nice picture of Justin, what is this? What is this thing, and why on earth has Wikipedia decided this is the image that represents all railroads in the US?
Oh, that's a big diesel locomotive of some kind. It looks relatively modern. I don't know which one it is. It might be like a ES-44DC or something like that. Big train, go fast.
Yeah, big train, go fast. Although, upsettingly, big train go over a flat crossing, which really upsets me. I can play at the drawing badly with a mouse game, which is this. Why is this? Why is it not bridge? Why?
Oh, that would cost like $10. They don't have that kind of money.
Yeah,
I mean they do, true. But the investors don't want them to spend it.
But that
needs to go to dividends.
Yeah, that needs to be on dividends. So we are not going to be talking about the bad things. Well, maybe a little bit here and there because it happens. Wait a minute. As you can see, actually, I'm here, and next to me on this side is Justin. There he is.
Yes.
Yep.
That's me.
So that's good.
Right there.
So what?
A uniform shade of blue with some wires going through it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about US railroads being good, actually, because I don't know enough about US railroads, and in my head is like, oh, there are so many problems, but actually there's this. It's a huge network, and freight is a thing that I have in my head as the US railroads being very good, but that's about as far as it goes. So I thought you'd be the perfect man to educate me. Essentially. But before we do that, we have to talk about. Well, there's your problem podcast.
Yes, this is my podcast that I host with my friends Liam and Alice, where we talk about engineering disasters. And Gareth has been on twice, and they've both been very good episodes.
Oh, thanks. They were fun episodes, mostly because trains were in them. I mean, they have a huge following. Like, they very rapidly got a huge following. So I strongly recommend everyone to go and subscribe on YouTube. Although I don't know why I'm doing that, because let's face it, like I think everyone who watches my show is basically like watches Where There's Your podcast as well. There's a lot of excitement in the Discord about this episode happening, I have to say.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So anyway, what got you? So you originally recorded just with Alice, right? And
Oh yeah, the first episode was with Alice, and then Liam, who was my roommate at the time, got mad that he wasn't included, so we brought him on.
And so what had you, did you know Alice already? Had you already sort of done?
I sort of knew Alice through Twitter, but I think Alice just posted as a joke, "Hey, I'll do an engineering podcast disaster with Do Not Eat," because back then I was still allowed on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. You hadn't done the Punic Wars on someone.
I know, right? Yeah. And that person deserved it. I have been unfairly wronged by Jack from Twitter, But yeah, so sort of as a joke, and then we're like, yeah, I'll do a podcast with you. That'd be fun. So we recorded the first episode, which was pretty good, and then we recorded a few more episodes, and it continued to be good, and people enjoyed it. So now here we are, 44 episodes in, and we're doing pretty good.
It's become an institution, and I for one am one of the people who always tunes in and catches up. I need to catch up on the bonus episodes actually, but we'll get to that later. Yeah. In any case, we should probably talk about trains, because a lot of people have probably come here to do that or to experience it. So, first of all, Justin, tell us about railroads in the US, because this is a map that looks like there are a lot of railroads in the US.
This is from about 1918, which is sort of the peak of rail mileage in the United States. Railroads have, shaped the development of the United States since basically the first ones started heading out west from New York and Philadelphia and Baltimore, and I guess sort of Portland, Maine. So you had your first eastern trunk lines like the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Baltimore and Ohio, the Erie, started to reach the Ohio River and the Great Lakes. And then after those got built, the Civil War happened. There's some B&O basically gets destroyed and has to be rebuilt. You sort of see consolidations of, well, not really consolidations yet, but you start to see these railroads try and expand westward. There'd been this sort of hodgepodge of alphabet soup of railroads west of the Ohio River, where, someone would build, like, I don't know, the Nowhere in East Armpit Railroad. And there'd be like 6 of these to get between 2 minor cities, like, I don't know, Toledo and Cleveland. Someone would have to go in and work it out, and all these municipalities tried to enforce special conditions in their charters to benefit them advantageously. So you might have like Erie, Pennsylvania, made sure that when the line from Cleveland to Buffalo ran through, they had to change gauge in Erie.
Ugh.
And then this was, of course, that required 4 railroads because it ran through 3 states. And one day the northern 2 railroads decided to change gauges, and then the whole town actually formed an angry mob and ripped up all the tracks after they had changed the gauges.
It's yeah. Oh my! So there was a while back. There was this weird thread that appeared that was based off an even older stupid email chain that was about track gauge. And I was moving house. It was the first time Permanent Way went viral, and I was not able to tweet like a lunatic about it. But you probably remember it. And it was the nonsense about like the space shuttle being designed because of the size of a horse's arse. And gauge has nothing to do with the horse's arse anyway. But like one of the basic failures in it was suggesting that the US had like a far more consolidated track gauge because they'd inherited it, inverted commas, from England. It's like, pretty sure there was an insane number of track gauges, just as there was in Britain. There was an insane number of track gauges in the US, right?
Yeah, I've been researching this recently for the next episode of Well, There's Your Problem, actually, about some of just the absurd gauges that existed. Standard gauge wasn't really standard until like the 1900s. Even like your big railroads would still be laying track to like something like Ohio gauge, which was 4'10". The Pennsylvania Railroad used 4'9". Some of the Southern railroads used weird gauges. Erie Railroad used 6 foot, of course. Um,
That's
they
just
changed
confusing.
that over in one day. I
Wow.
think when they finally decided to change it.
Yeah, crikey. I mean, the Great Western did that in the UK. They did like the last big bout from one end to the other of the final main line, Brunel's final main line. They switched it over in a long weekend, and it was nuts. Labor was cheap.
Yeah,
Hooray!
exactly. Back in the day.
Boo. So that's what it looked like in 1918. But by the power of magic and the internet, we can. Well, first of all, this is Philadelphia, which
Yes.
which I now feel like I feel like I can zoom in on things and know where they are thanks to Franklin, which is your other series, which we haven't talked about, which
Yes.
is also
We
very
haven't
good.
talked. Yeah, I
But
also have a YouTube series.
yeah, like I feel like I can zoom in on things and be like this bit. This to me looks familiar because of a Franklin episode. I feel like I know what's going on here, like the
There you
dam
get
across it.
the waterworks, and
Yeah,
where the art museum is now is where the reservoir was.
yeah. That's which is slightly strange because I didn't really know anything about Philadelphia before, so now I kind of get a feeling. And there's all the docks and the street and the nice classical music playing. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. But the immediate thing I notice here is firstly 110-mile-an-hour railway. That's railroad rather. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And also lots of railroads, like lots of railroads, a huge amount.
Oh yeah, and some of those are like rapid transit. Like I see the L in the subway in there, and then but yeah, there's and a lot of that is freight only. Unfortunately, I think only the the one tunnel that runs through Center City is passenger, as is the lines through 30th Street Station. But a lot of that is freight only, unfortunately, because that's how we do it here in the United States.
For better or worse. Well, as we're going to
Yeah.
discuss, there are advantages to that. But if I zoom out, like there is still a huge, and I suppose it's the same story, right? Like there are still a huge number of railroads, but it's primarily freight only. And is it lots
Yeah.
of is it lots of individual company like sort of industrially owned bits of railway, or is it largely owned by kind of the big players? What is it kind of what's it
You
like
you
these
have
days?
your like the vast majority of tracks are owned by a couple railroads we call the class ones. So that's CSX, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Um, what's the other ones? Norfolk Southern, Union Pacific, Kansas City Southern. Um, yeah, those are the class ones. Some people call Amtrak a class one. I guess it technically qualifies, but they don't own it. Also, Canadian National and Canadian Pacific are technically American class ones, despite being in Canada. Uh,
Yeah, figures. And one thing in the map that we showed before as well, there's a very definite east and west to the U.S. railroad map as well.
oh yeah,
Huge density in the east of the country, and then less less as you get over to the other side. Actually, my geography's been improved massively by obsessively refreshing like the Guardian homepage during the election, so I should know my states better now. My wife and I were like, I know states so well now. I'm starting to get to know like counties really well. Like I know Allegheny County really well now. Like, yeah. Anyway, that's
yeah.
another story. So, yeah. So there's like quite a radical difference in density, and you can see. So I presume some of these coloured ones that the good people of Open Railway Map have coloured in are some of the ones that are used by if they've got line speed improvements enough that they're showing up in colour. I presume it's because they are used by Amtrak. So some of these green.
Uh, I was gonna say that one agglomeration of color down there south of Chicago. What is that? That's St. Louis?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like one Amtrak train that goes there each day.
All right. So some of these. So in which case that
Maybe
somewhat
two.
undermines. That must be.
Yeah.
So that must be a low.
I-
What's this? 20? Yeah. Okay. It's just
Right.
so it's just where people have been unlazy enough to go in and actually enter the line speed values for. Thank you, open communities. We love you. Anyway, yeah. So that's that. But so the map looks pretty dense. However, if we whiz back to here and look at there's the class one railroads actually as you described. There
Yeah.
they are. BNSF. Yeah, there we are. FXE. Yeah, so
I
it's
don't know
the
what FXE is.
yeah. What's
Is that
FXE?
Florida East Coast? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be actually that one seems to be like in Mexico.
Oh, oh, okay. So that's Ferromex. I don't even know. I don't know what the Mexican railroads are anymore. After privatization, everything got confusing.
Oh yeah, that I can relate to that. But the next map was like the passenger map, and there are fewer lines on this map.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
some of those lines run once a day. Some of them run 3 days a week. In fact, a lot of them run 3 days a week now, because the solution to pandemic
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
the solution to the pandemic, of course, has been to crowd people into fewer trains as opposed to running more of them, right? That's obvious for something which is transmitted by aerosols. Of course, you want to have fewer trains with more people crammed
It's
in. That's a
ar-
good idea.
yeah, arguably the higher the human density, the higher the number of people per meter squared, the less likely the disease is to spread. That's definitely the science.
That's how it
Absolutely.
works, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, talking of which, have you recovered from the Rona, or did you end up not getting it from when you were sardined in?
It seems like I have not gotten it, or I had an asymptomatic case. I have drastically curtailed my contact with other people, regardless.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of this weird thing that this year, like, I've just not gone anywhere because I've kind of had this like eternal guilt. Like, if I go anywhere, I'm probably going to end up being, I'm going to be the dolt who ends up being a super spreader, like unwittingly. So I've kind of hidden in my house as much as I possibly can. Yeah, I think yeah, I think a few people have shared that. Others not so much. I think others have taken a more enthusiastic approach to going to the pub, or indeed actually horse racing. I remember there was a massive. I was in Birmingham Station. Just the last thing I did it was in Birmingham New Street Station, UK Birmingham, and a load of people in like cheap suits were coming back from the horse racing, and then I saw pictures of the horse racing, and then there was a huge spike of Rona of people who'd been at the horse racing at Cheltenham, I think. Whichever, I don't know anything about horse racing. At Cheltenham, and everyone got Rona. So yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah,
Rona's
exactly.
bad.
Rona, bad. Don't get it,
Don't
folks.
get it. Do not get it. Anyway, right. So we're going to go through. Right. So we're going to go through a top 10. In fact, it's not a top 10. I think there's like 12 or 13 things now. It
Yeah, I don't think
escalated.
they're in any order either.
No, it's going to be anarchy and chaos, but things that are good. So we've just a slightly bleak looking map of reduced passenger services with quite low frequencies, but it's not all a bad news story. In fact, there are loads of really good things about the US railroad system. I thought you can tell us about them. So number one, like I have snow because it's a holiday special, right? Snow.
Yes.
Yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, loading gauge, which is a subject close to my heart. So yeah, loading gauge. Tell us about loading gauge with this picture of Flying Scotsman in it for scale.
Yeah. Well, loading gauge is sort of like the size of a train that can fit on the railroad, right? So you got like the track gauge, which is the distance between the rails, but then you got your loading gauge, which is everything that goes above the rails, right? And you can see you have the Flying Scotsman there, looking very, very tiny next to what appears to be a Canadian national. I don't know if that's a mountain or a northern or whatever that is.
It's
Um,
yeah. It's large. It's
it's
substantially and almost comedically large, or rather, actually, it's not comedically large. It makes Flying Scotsman look comedically small, like a model train that's the wrong gauge.
exactly right. And of course, this is a locomotive, so you figure it's designed for the smallest loading gauge on the railroad.
Hmm.
Of course, in the United States and in Canada, loading gauge actually varies a whole bunch. That's how you can fit like double stack containers on some trains.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. People often assume there's some uniform gauge everywhere, but like in the UK, it really is not the case. Like, really is not the case, and the same in Europe as well. Obviously, huge variation. And so I didn't realize it was. Well, I assumed it was probably pretty similar in the US, given how many different companies made railroads happen.
Yeah, on older railroads, you'll find like tighter clearances, and in some places like Penn Station in New York City, you get tighter clearances. But out west, you can just fit these massive trains everywhere. That's why Amtrak is double decker everywhere.
Yeah. So, in continuing pictures that illustrate the point. Oh no, this isn't relevant actually. It's just Flying Scotsman being hauled by is it a GG1? Is that
It's a GG1, yeah.
Yeah, which is an awesome train anyway, awesome loco anyway. But it's quite funny seeing it hauling. Weirdly, it does look like it's a rake of Mark One, like British Rail Mark One coaches.
I believe for that particular trip, they did ship over a whole rake of Mark One coaches for the Flying Scotsman excursions. I think in this case, the GG1 is probably not actually doing any work there. It's just on the front because there's cab signals in there, which the Flying Scotsman, of course, does not have. And in order to run at speed on the Northeast Corridor, you need cab signals.
Yeah. So does that mean that Scotsman's actually pushing that hunk of steel?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm sure that reduced performance just a little bit.
Yeah, given that the loco is probably about the same mass, if not maybe more, than the trailing load. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's a bit weird seeing Mark One coach. I mean, I can only apologise for you having had Mark One coaches when you've got buds going around at the same. Like, yeah. Oh dear. Anyway,
I imagine the buds were pretty ratty by the Penn Central era.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a digression because I'm going to try and avoid too many of these. But this is a picture of W6A, which is the Go Anywhere loading gauge in the UK. Or in GB rather. I don't know what the loading gauge is in Northern Ireland actually. Anyway, that's something else. That's another story. W6A in Europe they have UIC gauge. There's a UIC gauge, quite a bit bigger. And then you have the a.a.r., which is the American Association of Railroads, right?
Yeah, and that's
bigger.
that's. I think that's one of the smaller plates they have. There's much taller plates as well.
Really? Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
so even like going higher.
Yeah, that's for stuff like double stack containers and auto racks and stuff like that.
Oh crikey. Yeah. So yeah, you can see a slight difference. I should have overlaid them, but I think you kind of get the point. W6A is small, also narrow.
Yeah.
US is large, which means you can carry it, particularly for freight. Okay, for passengers, it's also great for double deck trains, but for freight, that's good. And we're going to talk about freight, I think, quite a bit in our list of top things.
The only people who got us beat are the Russians and the Indians.
Well, it's to be understood. The Russians always, if they were going to beat, they didn't get beat, or they didn't beat you to the moon, so they had to beat you on loading gauge, right?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. Kind of feels like they won that overall in that, but I don't know, maybe it depends on what your feelings are on landing on the moon. So, next thing.
If only Liam were here.
Yeah, Liam would, yeah,
He could
that's
tell you
it.
something.
Yeah, it's true. He always manages to shout about the moon at me whenever we're on a... Anyway, that's it's okay. Yeah. I'm not bitter. Knuckle couplers. We're going to talk about knuckle couplers. Well, firstly, couplers. Okay, here's a picture, an illustrative picture. This is of a knuckle coupler.
Yes.
Why do you like knuckle couplers? Why do you think knuckle couplers are good?
So one of the nice things about the knuckle coupler is because there's so much strength in these guys, you can run very, very, very long trains, right? You don't have like a Lincoln pin system where, there's like just this like tiny little chain, right? Linking cars together. You have these big, strong things that make a good connection. And that's why you can run a 150, 200 car train, no problem. The only thing which I think is a disadvantage compared to Lincoln pin couplers is something I was reading about today, which was the 1877 railroad strike, where workers on the Pennsylvania Railroad took the pins out of the Lincoln pin couplers and used them to beat scabs like their clubs.
that is one plus point for the Lincoln pin.
There's no pins here that you can do that with, but.
Yeah, they should have Jani. I don't know. The person who designed them should have just inserted a redundant pin for use against scabs. It was
exactly.
Arguably a design oversight. Yeah. So it's interesting because someone on the Twitters posted a thread moaning about European standard coupler designs actually because they're kind of good but they're also kind of flimsy. Like there's very little coupling force you can actually put through them, and certainly in terms of long freight, they're just hopeless. So it's interesting that you put this in.
Once you got like a long train, I mean, the Lincoln pin doesn't necessarily work because if you're trying to pick up the slack over a long train, right? Which I guess for the non-experts here, the slack in the train is like when you stop the train, the cars bunch up. And if you got 200 cars or something like that, you will when you start the train up from the front end, you pick up the slack between each car, but you're still accelerating on the front end. So, you know, you might pick up the first car gently, but then over the course of 200 cars and you're picking up speed, the last car might get jerked from 0 miles an hour to like 6 miles an hour instantly. That's why you need these big, strong couplers.
And even it's even for so the advanced couplers that we have, the Scharfenberg couplers that we have. I don't know if you've seen a picture of those. Like they're flimsy.
Are those linked pin, or are those the ones with like the cone?
They're like, it's like the cone. Yeah, wait a minute, I'm going to very, very quickly do a snazzy. Yeah, here we are. Let's do this, and there we go.
Oh, well, those are definitely better for passenger trains. I will say that.
The challenge is that they're quite. Yeah, they're just very fiddly and very detailed. They're kind of quite. They're not hugely robust, which can be problematic. I think this is the front of an IC3. Anyway, right. I digress somewhat. So couplers. So that's good for. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the standard freight coupling is in the UK. Actually, I think it's a bit of a mixture. Yeah, and we don't have huge long trains. Like our longest trains are sort of 800 meters maybe. Is a really long train, which you just don't see. You don't see. Yeah, which doesn't. It's not quite the same force as like 3 miles of train. I don't know what the longest sort of
4. Yeah, 3 miles of train sounds about right.
Yeah, that's a long train. So that's a good thing. This is such a random list. The next one, talking of which, bulk freight.
Yeah.
So in the background we have a picture of. Thanks, Spencer Hughes 2255. We're probably going to get a copyright strike, but it'll be fine. It's fine. We've accredited suitably, and this is a documentary, which means that we're definitely not covered. That doesn't how it works. Anyway, this is a bulk train. This is a Bulkhall train. How many locos? I mean, each of these locos is a beast singly. Here are 3 of them.
Probably about 4,000 horsepower each, at least. Yeah, that's an older BNSF livery, so I assume that's like a -9 or something. I'm not good at picking these guys out, by eye. And then this seems to be grain.
Okay. Which is interesting, because that's what you actually did mention, grain, when we were talking about what you're going to put in. So we have we have enough like tractive effort there to like atomize a cathedral, and then behind it we have some grain.
And you might see more locomotives further on in the train.
Correct. I mean, it's like so Bulkhall. So tell us about Bulkhall in the US. This is something that in the UK we've had some. Coal was a big thing in the UK, but that's diminished massively for obvious reasons. Probably good. But we do still have some aggregate and stone haulage, but not. Nice transition. Not as much in the US. Like it's mass. Oh, here are the intermediate locos. Just as you said.
You need got 2 DPUs here, so you can make sure that you're not picking up the slack too quickly. Also, make sure that since the train is so long, if you get the wrong in-train forces on a curve, it might just derail for no reason. So you stick some more locomotives in the middle and you radio control them, so you can reduce those forces.
Interesting. I mean, this thing's still going. It's So Bulkhall, is it like what modal share of like bulk haulage is there have a lot got moved along interstate, or is rail just like massively like most of it's still moved by rail in the US?
So if you're looking at commodities like grain, coal, recently back in crude oil, which of course is fantastic for the environment. What else? Intermodal. You run a lot of this cargo in just gigantic, massive unit trains, like right across the United States. I don't know, you'll go from like Los Angeles to Chicago basically without stopping, maybe a short stop to refuel, take on a new crew, right? But these trains achieve, just massive efficiencies through their sheer size, right? And then there's even smaller unit trains, like here on the East Coast, we have this train called Q300 and Q301. That's a pair of CSX manifest trains, right? And that's on the way up north. It hauls bulk oranges from Florida.
Bulk oranges?
Jersey. Yes.
Oh, wow.
For the Tropicana company. And then on the way south, it hauls garbage from New York City.
I mean,
And it
presumably in the
dumps it
same
in
cars,
Virginia.
right?
Not in the same car, no.
So there's just an insane volume of like so freight. So rail freight is just a massive success basically in the US. Like there's no other way of putting it, right? It's a success.
Oh yeah. Hey, well, unit trains are a success. We'll get into carload freight later, which is like when you're shipping like one boxcar or something. But unit freight trains are just moving a shitload of stuff every day, constantly. And this is not like something which is really matched anywhere in Europe or like anywhere outside of like, again, Russia and India.
Yeah.
In terms of just the mode share.
Yeah,
Now,
it
one
just
of the
obliterates.
interesting
Road
things-
can't even get close, right?
Yeah, one of the things is it depends on how you break it down. Because if you look at cargo shipped by weight, rail is doing great. If you look at cargo shipped by value, like dollar value, it's not doing so great.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it depends how you cut your cloth, I suppose. So this is okay. We're watching stuff that is no longer bulk. Well, it's kind of a mixture. There's still a huge train, but there's a variety of things going on.
You had some auto racks in front. I mean, what it looks like is they found two trains that were going to the same place and they stuck them together, which is fairly common. So the front half was an intermodal unit, and the back half here you have. The front half was a auto rack unit, and the back half is intermodal. Those go together a lot because they're both high value cargoes that need to get where they're going quickly.
Okay, yeah. So do you have slight segue. Do they have like route prioritization for different? So do you have like sort of train classes a bit like they have in the UK in terms of prioritization? So like for this, I suppose I don't even know what the signaling systems look like because I suppose you've got. Is it primarily centrally controlled systems for some of these long lines? Because you're not going to have like handover with signal boxes anymore, I presume, on these.
There's a variety of signaling systems. Congress mandated they install positive train control about 10 years ago, and all the railroads have refused to do it until they get a bailout. So there's like lots of different signaling systems. Basically, every railroad has their own stuff. A lot of it's legacy stuff too.
Okay.
There's some whole sections of railroads which have fairly high traffic, which are just dark territory. They're unsignaled.
It's the Wild West, literally and perhaps, or metaphorically and perhaps literally.
You'll have different categories of trains, with different that go at different speeds, but it depends on the company what they're called.
Okay,
yeah.
So to what extent in terms of centralization, how much centralization or sort of standardization is there across the US railroad? Does it, given that the US is it is really a collection of lots of disparate states. I mean, lots of countryside, otherwise would be countries anywhere else. But in the US, it's sort of lots of almost countries combined. Is that continued in terms of the way that the railroads operate? Is it hugely decentralized, or actually is there a decent amount of standardization, other than track gauge, obviously?
Well, I mean, the Union Pacific is older than a lot of states in the Union. So I mean, there's enough standardization that, as you can see in a lot of these videos, that locomotives from multiple companies are operating in the same train. But you got to switch crews at the border of railroads. You got to switch. Not everyone's qualified to operate everywhere. I can't just take any train anywhere. I have to sort of plan it out and think about it. Especially stuff like double stack cars or auto racks, which are extra high. There's still low bridges around there where you might just, shear the top off if you're dumb.
Yeah. Did you see that video that went out of it? I think it was an auto. Was it not? No, it wasn't. It was a car transporter actually that went through a really low bridge. Yeah. It was an auto rack. Yeah. It got kind of got minced up. That's it's a good example of what gauge clearance doesn't look like.
Exactly.
The scale is the scale of the scale is absolutely off the chart. I mean, it's just so much, so much.
Those guys are moving fast too.
Yeah, they're not hanging around. What's the speed? So in the UK, you'll see container freight moving at 75 miles an hour. That's about as fast as anything gets. Occasionally, you hear talk of 90 mile an hour potentially getting introduced, but it doesn't happen. But actually, stuff goes faster than that even on some of the routes in the US, I think.
So there is a 79-mile-an-hour rule across the United States that says you cannot exceed 79 without cab signaling. As a result, that's pretty much the maximum speed on any freight railroad outside of some parts of the former Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, where that railroad tried to run an extra fast unit train, a container train back in the 80s or 70s and 80s, which turned out to not make much sense economically. But the infrastructure for it is still there.
Yeah, I mean,
it's called the Super C.
Yeah, I mean, 79 miles an hour is kind of fast enough for a 5 mile, 3 mile long, potentially 5 mile long train. To be honest, like that kind of feels like nothing's stopping that. It's like, yeah, that's a lot of momentum. In any case, we've exploited Spencer Hughes' hospitality for quite long enough. So let's skip on to the next one, which is which is kind of relevant, which is to the last video, which is just the scale of the damn thing. Tell us about why the scale of the damn thing is such a good thing. And while you do that, we're going to put this absolutely stunning photograph up.
And one of the nice things that makes the U.S. rail system so efficient is you can ship a whole bunch of crap a very long distance very efficiently, just because you pound out the miles over and over and over again for you might go 300-400 miles on like one crew, and you might be hauling, I don't know, 200 cars at this point. Trains are getting longer right now because of precision scheduled railroading and the fact you can have mid-train helpers and stuff like that. Things are just big, and they're getting bigger. And they're not necessarily getting faster, but they are getting bigger.
Yeah. So, like the scale. Okay, this is the finest picture. Here's a Union Pacific. Well, this is all sorts of mixed freight in here. Actually, there's all sorts. There's some hoppers, some tankers.
That actually all looks to be hoppers to me.
Oh, is it? So what's
those are cylindrical hoppers that the Canadian government built sometime in the 80s, I think.
Oh right, crikey!
And they all have ads for like Alberta and Saskatchewan on them.
Oh wait, so have I just basically put 3 pictures of Canada up? Let me just.
Oh no, well that's Union Pacific, so that's somewhere in the United States.
Good. Oh my goodness.
Canada's greener than that.
So So I managed to put one of Canada in because that's the Canadian Rockies, but this is the US, and that
is definitely not Canada, and that is also definitely not Canada.
Excellent! Hooray! This is scale. This picture I feel is probably the most magnificent in terms of visualizing scale. This is, bearing in mind the trains are already huge. This just the scale. I was trying to find one of like the planes with just a railway disappearing off into the distance, but turns out that railroad photographers aren't great at putting their keyword tags in their images, so I was struggling. However, this picture is awesome. It's just it's just the scale. Yeah, as you say, scale. We've just looked at a lot of freight, and I think we're going to talk about precision scheduled railroading in a couple of slides as well. Yeah, it's magnificent. Let's bounce to. Oh, is there anything else you want to say while this picture is up?
All I wanted to say was big train, go fast.
Yes. Okay. Talking of big train, domestic local manufacturing is another thing, or it was
sort of was.
Yeah.
Until recently.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us. So I'm going to put a picture of a large train, a large locomotive here. It's going to appear right here. I think we've seen quite a few of these already going back and forth. This is a train, and it's large.
Yeah.
Tell us about. Well, not just this one, but locomotive manufacturing generally in the US. Tell us about it.
So that's a -9. It's a General Electric product, made in Erie, Pennsylvania. We used to have like 2 major locomotive manufacturing companies here in the United States. It was the GE Transportation Division, and it was the General Motors Electromotive Division. and then they were both kind of, so they were the main competitors for a while. And then before that, we had the American Locomotive Company, which survived up until I think the late 70s, maybe early 70s. It was nice because we had this sort of competitive. That's the Rona getting to me.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got you again.
Yeah, exactly. We had this sort of competitive. There's enough of a market there that you could sustain two domestic locomotive manufacturers that all these, companies would buy from. You'd have, so it was all American made. For a while it was like we exported locomotives to China. We exported them to the United Kingdom, to Europe, everywhere. It's nice. It was like, hey, we make the locomotives for everywhere. Class 66 in the UK, that was an EMD product. And then the 2008 financial crisis sort of hit. And, after precision scheduled railroading increased the efficiency of equipment utilization so much, along with lower traffic levels, both of these companies basically went bust. And of course, under the sort of the modern financial system, no one wants to invest in a company that makes a physical product.
Yeah,
that doesn't make enough money.
Yeah.
Could you make us an app? Can you make an app that hauls that much freight? So you just have 10,000 Uber drivers with like coal in the trunk. I guess that'll be the new transportation paradigm. I don't know, but
it's the future. The future is bright. Good God. Yeah, I mean, like the neoliberal paradigm does not like physical things. It likes the physical things to go away. Yeah. In any case, we can admire pig iron and steel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now it's sort of like, I think one of them is part of Caterpillar now, and then there's a bunch of tiny manufacturers picking up the slack.
And it just results, right, in because the US also has like procurement rules for when they are bringing trains. It just means that like a factory gets set up, right, and people put parts together, and then the factory closes down and they all lose their jobs. Is that basically what ends up happening now when new rolling stock is needed in the US?
I mean, it really depends on a company being able to set up in the United States who has enough influence and enough lobbyists to, get everyone to start buying their crap, right? So, I mean, when Hyundai Rotem set up in South Philly to build our new commuter trains here in Philly, they started up, they built the order, they built an order for Denver, they shut down. I think Siemens now has a foothold. They have a plant in Sacramento, I think, and they've managed to get the word out that, hey, here's a standardized format so that you can send out a bid that only we can fulfill.
Because they're replacing the trains on the Northeast Corridor, right? Is that Siemens?
On the Northeast Corridor.
It's
Alstom. Alstom did the high-speed train set. Siemens is likely to do the replacement for the Amfleets.
Okay, yeah.
And they also got an order for Midwest coaches, as well as I think the California coaches are being replaced with those as well. So yeah, they've dug in.
Which is a bit weird. It's a bit of a strange. I mean, it's a bit like that seems similar to the UK, where all the the ubiquitous intercity unit now is the Hitachi In-City Express train, which I actually was part of the design team who built the depot for it. But I mean, we did do building of trains and locomotives quite extensively in GB, and then we didn't because privatization wiped it out, which is great. And then so now we've imported it again. So now we've got loads reappearing, and they're reappearing for there's not a huge long list of orders for them to fulfill. So it's a little bit weird that we've got like Hitachi obviously got their plant. We've got a couple of others that have established kind of very small scales. So Siemens are opening a plant in Goole, and then what is it? We've got a plant opening in Scotland, and then another one in Wales for Talgo and for it's a bit strange. I'm not entirely sure what their plan is, because we don't have because there's no plan, because Britain failed state and all that. I don't know what they're going to build. they're going to appear, build something, and then everyone's going to be made redundant again, and then there'll be some extra new post-industrial land. Hooray!
This is the problem with when you do sort of like a half-assed neoliberalism that still has all this protectionist stuff as well, is that like you don't even get the efficiencies that neoliberalism promised. I mean, it'd probably be fine. It'd probably be a lot cheaper if they just made the Siemens locomotives in Germany and shipped them over. But we're not going to do that. You have to come over here and build a plant, and then hire people, and then lay them off, and then hire them again, and then lay them off. You're going to tear down the plant and rebuild it every time. But it's okay because the Fed can just keep printing money,
Oh man, if only people would just stick to their pure form of ideology, then everyone would be happier. I suppose the good thing is neoliberalism has got rid of the unions, so it becomes less inconvenient to make everyone redundant and then employ them again 5 minutes later on worse rates.
I dream of being able to pay a skilled machinist $2.25 an hour plus tips. Yes.
Oh crikey! Anyway, so this is a Dash 9. It's a pretty impressive beast.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Oh yeah, it's a good looking locomotive.
Yeah. I mean, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a big locomotive. It has glass on one end, on the go end, and then
yes.
I mean, yeah, and also you can walk alongside it, which is a fun feature of. How many movies wouldn't exist if you couldn't walk alongside the side of a locomotive in the US? It would wreck a genre.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. Yes. You got a nice front porch. You can go out there, get a breeze.
Yeah, it's nice. I like the door. It is. I mean, you literally could go out there for your fag break. Just sort of go out with your cigarette.
Yeah.
Just, enjoy the view. Yeah, nice. And then other locomotives.
Someone yells at you. You're like, I'm on Smoko. Leave me alone.
Yeah, drivers passing and just honking the horn, and you just sort of raise your lit cigarette at them, and it's good. I suppose you could climb up on the top and light it on the overheads if you're on certain parts of the network. Anyway, right. So, also some weird locomotives. I don't know why I even put these in. I think basically I found the picture of that EMD with a massive pantograph, and then decided that it was not high enough resolution to justify its own slide, so I had to find other pictures too. That's essentially what this slide is about. But as a kid, so the Santa Fe in the top left-hand corner, actually not that locomotive, but that livery is like probably the most iconic for me as a kid, because it was in a book I had about trains, and it was like, it just looked so amazing, and it looked massive, and it looked like the sort of thing where you go in it and you travel for like days in this amazing train. I was captivated by it. It's quite shiny,
and that's what you would do. I mean, that's an Alco PA. It's one of a sort of generation of locomotives we'd call cab units, and they so the it's sort of like it's a stressed car body, right? That was made by the American Locomotive Company, which made steam locomotives for a while, switched over to diesel ones. Their diesel locomotives were famous for running extremely rich, so they basically made as much smoke as a steam locomotive. There's still a railroad up in northeast Pennsylvania that runs almost exclusively Alcos. It's wonderful.
Amazing. And then, so what's this white thing next to it? Because it looks, I mean, it's a very odd looking thing.
That was the General Motors EMDs. I think it was the E50, maybe the E55. I don't remember what the exact designation. It was a prototype electric locomotive for when it was still uncertain whether we were going to keep electric freight trains going on the Northeast Corridor. So I believe they built 2 of them, and they ran on demonstration runs. And then I think the oil crisis ended. And I think by that time it was Conrail. Conrail decided, we're just going to run diesel trains. We don't need this electric crap. We're going to run diesel. We got cheap oil again.
The oil came along and the electric went bye-bye. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Ugh. Yeah, I mean, ugh. So then there's on the bottom left-hand corner is something weird that we had to Google before this episode started recording, because It's
We designed this PowerPoint by committee.
yeah, yeah.
I also outsourced the list, so
Yeah, this. I mean, we talk. We're bad leftists in that we were outsourcing everything. Yes.
yeah. Well, no, we're going full neoliberal here.
Yeah,
Thatcher was good, actually. Beaching
God.
axe, the most efficient way to organize anything.
I should have got my. I need my QI klaxon on a soundboard. I've yet to work out how to get drops to work out nicely, but I need a QI klaxon so I can just klaxon things. Anyway, yeah. So that very bright and shiny looking yellow thing is.
It is a Fairbanks Morse Erie built. It's called Erie built because I believe General Electric did the electrical systems and possibly more than that at Erie, Pennsylvania in their plant. But Fairbanks Morse supplied the car body, and also the car body is like the shape of the locomotive, and also the engines. And of course, Fairbanks Morse is famous for its opposed piston diesels.
Ooh.
Similar to the Deltic.
So by which we mean wait, let me draw a bad piston.
Yeah.
There's a piston. There's my bad piston. And then so rather than having it, okay, I've done it upside down. Rather than there being a cylinder head, you have another piston, right?
Yes. You got two pistons per one bang.
A bang, and then the thing goes the bang and up and down. Yes.
Yeah. And then you got two crankshafts. Now the Deltic, of course, had three crankshafts.
Yeah, it kind of did. It did.
That's why it's Deltic,
Should have done this better, to be honest. Did that with more and the yeah.
Yeah. But Fairbanks Morse only did two of them. And they made a lot of locomotives of this design. They made a lot of engines of this design. One of the unfortunate things is although they made, I think, some of the nicest looking locomotives out there, including the Trainmaster. That's one of my favorite ones.
Ooh.
Because these engines were also used in submarines. And the Navy kept breaking those engines. Most of them were, very few made it to preservation. Most of them got scrapped early on so the Navy could get those diesel engines.
The Navy have a big budget. Why can't they buy their own bloody engines? What? Like, presumably the naval budget's like 2 orders of magnitude greater than the combined railroad budget. Why can't they just get their own engines?
I mean, because that budget is allocated to stuff like, I don't know, what's the stupidest thing you can think of? That's what they're spending it on.
F-22 Raptor.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's the second largest air force in the world?
I don't know. What is the second largest air force in the world?
The U.S. Navy.
Yeah. What is the most stupid US? I don't know about US stupid military things. I can think of lots of UK military. And in fact, basically list off the largest UK military spend, and the things that are at the top of that list are likely to be the most stupid things a military could buy. I don't know if it applies to the US. Maybe.
Here's a fun one. So the largest consumer of diesel fuel in the world is the U.S. Army. Mm-hmm. What's the second largest?
Is it the Navy?
No, it's the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad. I believe after that is Union Pacific.
Oh, wow. Crikey.
Yeah,
What?
You'd think at some point electrification would make sense.
Yeah, you'd think that the orders of magnitude here. I mean, having just fairly recently done an episode of this where we looked at Network Rail, the infrastructure manager in the UK is just like having with its bits and pieces in a vice has been produced probably the most detailed assessment of why electrification is a good idea that humans have ever created. And yet politicians are still going, why are we always talking about electrification? It's because you don't do it, that's why. Anyway, having just gone through that document, which is already massive and it's like half-finished state, freight is mental to be pushed around by diesel. It's so inefficient and expensive, and also the smell and the noise, and also GHG emissions.
Well, I believe that a lot of the freight railroads now take it as gospel that you can't run double stacks under wires, right? Because it is impossible to build a pantograph tall enough to reach an extra 2 feet.
Yeah. I refer to the Indian Railways who do that.
I'm pretty sure that's photoshopped.
Oh, what? No, is it? I'm sure there's a video of them doing it. I'm sure there is. I'm gonna have to research it.
I know, but if you showed that to a railroad executive, they'd probably tell you it's Photoshop.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Oh man, why does everyone hate wiring things? Like, it's actually good. It's cheaper. Like, by their own rules, it's better.
No, batteries are going to save us. It's going to be batteries.
Yeah, batteries.
What we're going to do is we're going to go depose some South American governments and take their lithium, and then batteries will create a green revolution.
Elon Musk is going to shit tweet people in South America. They're gonna just get so upset they'll leave, and then conveniently some sort of armed U.S. militia will somehow open a load of lithium mines. Everything will be fine. Yeah. What's this last shiny looking sort of loco? Do you know anything about that? It's very new and shiny. I think it's a progress rail train.
I'm pretty sure that's Electromotive Diesel F125. I think. I'm not sure.
Looks
it's
nice.
Not the new Siemens one. I think that was one of the last the last passenger locomotive they built before, they just got exploded by neoliberal disinvestment.
Which is a shame, because that's a really nice loco. Looks good.
It turned out pretty good. I was surprised that thing got any orders, because it's been under development since, like, I don't know, the mid 2000s. And then finally, I think Metrolink in Los Angeles bought some, and they finally delivered some, and then, again, the company imploded.
Oh dear. So rip. In any case, locomotives. So that was the rise and fall. So wait a minute, we were supposed to be on an optimistic note. What's the optimistic note from this? Well, maybe there isn't one. Well, it was great, and now it isn't so much.
There's lots of interesting small manufacturers now. I don't know that we'll have big locomotives anymore. I don't know who's capable of making a big locomotive anymore.
Yeah. What's going to happen when this? So presumably there's a huge generation of like aging. Like, they're not so bad now. They're kind of in like early. They're kind of in their late 30s. If we're going to put them in people years, but maybe they're like 20, 30 years old but they're going to all go pop at the same time, right?
Presumably, yeah. I mean, you got a huge amount of power that's in storage right now, though, just because of the efficiencies which precision scheduled railroading has allowed. There's just a lot of locomotives you're not using right now. So I guess what's going to happen is when the current generation goes bust, they'll just bring out the locomotives which are also from the current generation, from the strategic reserve.
Yeah, that's it.
In the box tunnel.
In box tunnel.
Hopefully there's not too much water damage. And
we joke, but that's always the fallback plan. Is the rubbish plan. It's always the actual fallback plan. It's the same with. I could get off. We're not going to talk. We're not going to moan about rolling stock strategy too much, because there's one of your podcast episodes in it, frankly.
Yeah.
Right. So next thing. Okay. Making classification yards actually work. This is a successful thing of U.S. railroads. For viewers who are watching this on in the UK and Europe, a classification yard, I think, is basically just a synonym for a marshalling yard, right?
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
Classification yard, railroad yard, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So here is this a classification yard?
Yes.
Excellent.
This is at least part of one.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's massive, because we have so much carload freight here that you still need to run, these big mixed freight trains, as opposed to units, as opposed to containers, and you need to sort these cars somewhere. So, you have the train you have the car that's going to Chicago, you have the car that's going to Cleveland, you have the car that's going to, I don't know, East Armpit, on the same train. They need to be sent on 3 separate trains out of the yard, and we're still good at doing that. So we got these big, computerized, dwindling in number, but big computerized, what's called a hump yard, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of a hump yard is, the train comes in, it's got a bunch of cars for all kinds of different destinations. What you do is you shove the cars over a hump, and then a guy decouples the cars as they pass over the hump, or I think now you can do it automatically. They coast down past a sensor that reads sort of a tag on the car to figure out where it's supposed to go. And then the switches in front of it align themselves so that the car rolls into the siding it's supposed to go to. And then this process is repeated for every car on the train continuously. So, you're sorting this train out into several other trains very quickly, and then the next train comes up and you do it again.
See, what's incredible is that this was so hump shunting is a thing was a thing in the UK, but we managed to we screwed up so badly. So as part of the modernisation plan in 1955, which was like a colossal blunder of the railways in the UK. Or in GB rather, we spent an inordinate amount of money on huge marshalling yards across the country, and a huge amount of glamour, and these things were supposedly the future, except that they were designed around sort of fixed 2-axle sort of Hornby wagons, like tiny little the tiny little things from the mid 1800s.
Troublesome trucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were designed around that. Which means that
Yeah.
within about 10 years, all of them had basically entirely closed or been redeveloped into buy-to-let housing by Thatcher or whatever. It was a complete disaster.
What prevented them from being adopted for like bogey cars? Or did that just not become a thing?
I presume a couple of factors. So I'm conjecturing massively here. Firstly, I presume that the design... so the actual track layout was designed for the wrong type of wagon, which meant that to get them to work, they'd have had to totally rebuild them, by which point they were just like, stuff it, we'll just turn it into some sidings maybe and leave the rest of the track to rot.
Right, because all of those cars weighed like, I don't know, like 60 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, they weighed nothing. And their wheelbase was so presumably the track geometry. So if they'd been designed, I mean, given that we shrink wrap everything in Britain, I bet the turnouts were designed too small. The lengths of the sidings were too small. So they were great for like these tiny little 12-ton short wheelbase things, but then there was that traffic declined pretty rapidly. That declined, particularly the private. You stopped having lots of individual kind of like the classic thing where you have a big long wagon with lots of different company little 12-ton things, and that declined. But the increase in container wagon, so intermodal stuff, actually it's one of the things that Beeching did really well. He got intermodal freight working really well in the UK, in Britain, and that didn't need marshalling yards in the same way. So they kind of didn't have a purpose. So and nothing else came in to fill in behind them. So they just stopped having a purpose in the way that and also we continued subsidizing the motorway network, kind of expanded, and it was a bad time. It was just a hopeless. It was a bad idea with no strategic plan, and cars and HGVs became the thing. Lorries became the thing.
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. We were still building big yards until I think the 60s.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. I
think there may even be a few that are newer than that. I think they're mostly in Canada though.
Okay.
So they work.
Yeah, they were. So I've got another picture of. Oh no, I don't. I thought I did. Oh no, I got rid of it because I have the. Anyway, this that's fine. The scale is quite something, but also, I mean there are lots of these. They're massive.
Yeah.
I'm almost enjoying some of the S&C because it's me. I'm enjoying some of this nice fan work here. These switches are quite long actually. It's quite good. Yeah.
It's the only thing is like it still may take 3 days for a car to come in the yard and being classified and going out of the yard. Unfortunately, like as much as it's supposed to be a very fast system, sometimes it isn't. And then there's there's this old story of like what happens when these yards go wrong. There was this one yard called Selkirk. It's up in near Albany, and back in the Penn Central era, it was built in the Penn Central era. And it was, Penn Central was a massively dysfunctional railroad, but it built a little bit of new plant and equipment towards its beginning. But they had this one incident where they lost the entire crop of Maine potatoes somewhere in the yard. They just lost it. There were a bunch of boxcars. There's specialized boxcars for the Maine potato crop, especially,
Just
right?
lost.
They have to be constantly maintained at a certain temperature. They had coal stoves in them.
Oh wow.
And so they lost the cars in the yard for I think 2 days, and the stoves went out and all the potatoes froze,
Oh my
and
goodness.
the whole crop of Maine potatoes that year had to be thrown out.
I bet that was good
And
for insurance premiums.
I the Maine potato farmers have never shipped by rail since.
Yeah, yeah, I was going to say that's a good way to lose your customer. Yeah, bloody hell. Yeah, by the power of magic, the next picture is back. Here it is. This is a smaller one. So that was a so to get the definitions right. So that's a classification yard, but you don't count what would you call this then?
That's intermodal. That's double stack intermodal. And
So you
this is definitely a different thing. You can't run these through a hump yard.
No, they would make a mess. But I suppose
yeah.
it's more for the nomenclature of the yard, so I can get the nomenclature right. So we'd call this rail freight interchange. Actually, is probably the name we'd call these. What do you call when the loading? Do you have a specific name for when you're loading intermodal? What would you call that yard?
I don't know what you'd call it. You may. I know some places are called an inland port.
Okay, yeah.
Other places, it's just an intermodal yard.
Oh, okay, so it's pretty similar to
I think
UK
it's kind of informal.
Yeah.
You call it what you call it.
Yeah.
Call it Jeff. I don't know.
Yeah, call it Jeff. Let's go with Jeff. Yeah. So actually, we have these in GB, but it looks like we've got the scale wrong by like a factor of maybe 5 or possibly 10, as ours are really small and this is huge. In any case,
if you run enough double stacks, eventually the clearances will adapt to the double stacks.
Yeah, it's like that. That on the episode when we were on the Great Heck episode of there's your podcast. There's your problem. We I'm just thinking of that picture. I'm being mentally distracted by the image of that knacked the knacked train that tried to get through a UK tunnel. Not happening. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Northeast Corridor next. Number 7. Oh my goodness! Well, how about an hour and 8 minutes? Oh, that's not too bad actually. We're doing fine. What time is it? It's 5 past midnight in the UK right now. Except it isn't, because it's what time is it actually? It's 8 minutes past 7 on whatever day this goes out. This is going out in January, I think, in 2021. What a year 2020 was, eh? Anyway, the Northeast Corridor. Tell us about the Northeast Corridor. What's so great about it?
Well, the Northeast Corridor is nice because it's electric. It runs through all the major cities. All the major cities on the East Coast. We do in fact have one single sort of high speed line here in the United States. I say sort of. I mean, we're slowly getting better. They're about to increase some speeds to 160 miles an hour.
Oh, nice.
I think between Trenton and New Brunswick, which is nice. Otherwise, it is sort of a West Coast main line sort of situation where, there's lots of curves. The speeds aren't that fast, but it works. It moves a lot of people every day. There's lots of commuter trains on it. It's 4-track for most of the way.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Not all of it. There's nasty bottlenecks in a few spots, but
yeah, but it is, as you might describe it, a more classic sort of Europe. I don't mean it disparagingly, but it's a bit like if you look at it and it looks more familiar to as a mixed traffic European sort of type of railroad, right? Like it's 4-track. It's kind of mixture of different services. You've got fast services running through along with commuter stuff. It's more operationally familiar perhaps to people on this side of the pond. This is a great. I don't know where I got this picture. Actually, I think I got this picture off the Amtrak website. That makes it okay.
That makes it okay.
Yeah.
They're the government. You can do anything.
Exactly. This is a glorious picture. I mean, this is awesome. I really want to be in the train going over this bridge with this view. Stunning.
Oh yeah, the Hellgate Bridge is a nice view. I think it's one of the prettiest bridges in the United States. Very nice view from the train of the New York City skyline as you go through this section. Also handles freight.
Nice. Yeah.
Also, fun fact: if you look in the abutment here, you see these 2 archways, right? That was supposed to be for trolley lines that would also cross the bridge. Never happened.
Here.
Though.
So these little numbers here. Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, boo to that. That would have been excellent. I mean, I don't know exactly
nice,
where they'd have fitted on the actual superstructure of the bridge. But
I'm gonna worry about that later.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I love it's just a really nice aesthetic there. These it just looks like a fantastic bridge. I love the approach viaduct as well. It's stunning. It looks terrific. Love this.
Oh, yeah, it goes right through a bunch of neighborhoods in Astoria. So you're taking the train, but you're going over all the houses. It's real nice.
Yeah. And it's like a pointy train too. It's like it's an EMU as well. This looks like an electric multiple unit.
It's locomotive hauled.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah. There's a locomotive
piffle.
at each end. The new one, I don't even know if the new one is EMU. I think it's not.
Oh, really?
I don't think anyone's figured that out yet, that you can make EMUs. I don't think they've been invented here yet. We haven't researched that part of the tech tree.
Okay, you haven't clicked the button. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Well, this time you've been working on other bits. It's fine. You've used up all your like RP points on other stuff. It's okay. Yeah. So it's a proper thing. So what's quite interesting is that every now and then, when I was doing my research for my master's thesis, I was doing it on track on rail failures, and I came up with quite a lot of basically British rail engineers in the later years of British Rail and in the early years of rail track, sort of the sort of mustachioed sort of British Rail weirdos, did quite a lot of work on the Northeast Corridor. And one of the things that we took over was our terrible design for, I think, what you call movable frogs, what we call swing nose crossings.
Right.
And they were dreadful. It's a really dreadful design, and we gave them to you. And I think they might still be running in a few places on the Northeast Corridor. Hopefully not. Hopefully they've been replaced. But so yeah, you've got some of our junk. I sincerely apologise.
Damn. I know someone in the Northeast Corridor track department. I could ask her about
that. Do it. They were basically they were from what is known as the RT60 suite that we don't use in the UK anymore or in GB anymore. Because basically, for some reason, Britain hates movable frogs. We think they're bad, even though actually they're a really good idea. Because they make the bump go away, which is good. You want to make the bump go away. That's a positive thing. In any case, quite a lot of the track came. There were quite a lot of BR engineers went over and scratched their chins and did some pointing and nodding and scratched things on pencils for the Northeast Corridor engineers. So bit of cross Atlantic collaboration there. It's all good.
Your guys in white lab coats meeting our guys in like short sleeve shirts with ties.
I mean, you say that, but like the people I'm thinking of are very much like short sleeve and tie people. Also, I think they'll have been peas in a pod. Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing we do very badly over here is track geometry, especially switch geometry.
Well, that'll have to be another episode then, because
But we're supposed to be talking about good stuff, right?
We are supposed to be talking about good stuff. Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll save that. One thing I've also been confused by is why Network Rail decided to make their logo like the Amtrak logo, like the Network Rail logo. I don't know. Wait a minute. I'm doing this right now, mid-episode, because that's how much of a professional I am. Right. Here it is. The Network Rail logo. There it is.
It does look like the Amtrak
kind
logo.
Of does look like. Why did they nick it? Anyway, never mind.
It took me a while to figure out that the Amtrak logo was supposed to be a pair of tracks.
Yeah, likewise with the Network Rail logo. I was just thinking, just like, I don't know, like sunbeams or a bit of clip. Someone ungrouped a clip art and thought that this bit of it was nice. I don't know. Like that's about the level I could imagine. In any case, good. That's a good thing. It's like I feel like I can go. I've been not wanting to go to the US for a while because I don't know. Trump made me feel like I didn't want to go. Now I kind of want to go now, and this is high on my list of to dos. In fact, going over this bridge is high on my list of to dos. In any case, the next thing, which is another thing that I have no idea about, and you're gonna have to tell me about, which is short lines. Lots and lots of them apparently.
Short lines are nice. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. I mean, they are a mixed bag. But, okay, so let's say you have a section of track that's uneconomical for, the Class 1 railroads to operate. A lot of times they'll try and abandon it. But luckily, a lot of times these short lines come in and like, well, we can run these. No problem, right? I mean, part of this is for bad reasons, like the short line doesn't necessarily have to pay as high wages. They might not be as unionized, so on and so forth. But the railroads are still operated, which is good. And sometimes you can get away from like some of the, really ossified operating practices of the Class 1 railroads. They can act as feeder lines. Sometimes they're bringing freight, end to end. And sometimes they can operate in ways that the Class 1 railroads do not. And my big example here is the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern.
Which I have a picture of here. It's a very
Yes.
random picture that was like the first that appeared, but it has old and new stuff on it. So I thought would cover the topic.
Oh yeah, it's this is a short line that operates from Reading to Scranton in Pennsylvania along some of an old Pennsylvania railroad line, and I think there might be another couple railroads thrown in there for good measure.
I'm gonna see if I can do my geography and find it. Wait a minute, where am I? I'm here. Here is Boston.
You were close before.
I was closer before. There's New York, which means I've screwed it up now. There's Philly. Okay, right. There's Reading. Yeah. I found Reading.
Yes, there's Reading. So you sort of go north.
North. There we are. Yes. And Port Clinton, Pottsville.
Yeah. From Port Clinton, you would continue north to Scranton.
To Scranton. I've gone and got lost. Scranton. Here's a Scranton. Okay, great. Yeah, here we are. Cool. So it's presumably it's the line that connects Reading. So is it kind of weaving through here?
Yeah, it's weaving through. It goes along the Lehigh River. It goes through Jim Thorpe and Port Clinton and a couple other places. I think they've done like some of the only investment in infrastructure I think any railroad in Pennsylvania has done of its own abolition recently when they put in a switch at Jim Thorpe and a bridge. They put in a whole bridge.
Oh my goodness, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah,
crikey. So it's a mixture. So you said it's a mixed operation. So you have some heritage elements and actually some profitable elements. Some almost sort of contemporary operational elements as well.
Yeah, they run one of the only fast freights in America right now, the North Reading Fast Freight, which will get a car from Scranton to Reading in one day. Basically no problem, which is a major feat for railroads. Lots of the Class 1 railroads, as much as they're good at moving a lot of stuff, they're not good at moving it there on time. But this is sort of a model which basically says, look, we can move a whole bunch of stuff and we can get it to you in a timely fashion.
Will it catch on?
That's a good question. I mean, because this whole concept involves like spending money on stuff.
Oh,
which is always a non-starter because the Reading and Northern has Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern has done these incredible things like marketing.
yeah.
Right, so that's number one, and then it's like, well, how do we ship our stuff? They're like, oh, we own boxcars. Right, it's just again something I think the Class 1s have not caught on to. I mean, this concept of buying and owning rail cars for the purpose of transporting things, I think, is still kind of alien to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd laugh, but bearing in mind pretty much all of our rolling stock in Britain is owned by the banks. Very strangely.
Oh God, there's a very strange ownership situation with a bunch of Amtrak rolling stock where it's owned by one of the big cigarette manufacturers. I don't recall why.
What the hell? This planet is bizarre. What? Jeez. At some point, someone's going to look back on this like period of like hyper capitalism and just be very confused. It's going to be it'll be like the annoying subject that people hate in history because it doesn't make any sense, and the literature was all basically lost in the great solar flare of 2100 or something. So that it's all lost in emails.
It'll be sooner than that.
Yeah,
we're overdue for a big one.
That's it. Bye emails. Anyway, right. So, this is a good one. The next one you said, actually, this was a definite by committee suggestion, only because of the power of Google. Big stations.
Big station. Good. I like a nice big station.
Here is a picture of probably the most well-known big station in the US, right?
I think it's the biggest station in the world by number of platforms, I believe.
Yes. and I mean, it is fantastic. I've never been to the US, not once. It's far away, and the first time I went abroad was when I was a student, so I'm not particularly well traveled. I'll freely admit this. My wife has basically dragged me up from being not a well traveled person to like vaguely a bit well traveled now. Thank you, Dino. In any case, here's the Grand Central Station, and it does look. I mean, the concourse is awesome.
Grand Central Terminal, actually. Grand Central Station is the subway station.
Aha, Grand Central Terminal.
Yes.
I stand corrected.
Yes.
However, I was today years old when I realised that this station is just a pompous ass compared to this place, which is I mean, it's not. I presume it's not your local station, but it's.
Well, I guess 49th Street is my local station, but I'm not going to go there to catch a train to get to here. Usually, I'm going to take the trolley.
This is well, wait. Let me get this right. Is it 30th Street?
30th Street, yes.
30th Street Station in Philadelphia, and this is absolutely stunning. I love this so much.
It's a very nice station, and unlike Grand Central Terminal, you can get an inner city train from here.
Hooray!
Not just commuter trains.
Yeah. So this is from a render. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. One of the nice things about a lot of the really grand stations here in the United States is, they were really overbuilt when they were built. So it's not like there's been huge modifications to a lot of them to accommodate new trains. Now, a lot of them fell into disrepair really badly in like the 70s and 80s. But important ones came back, at very least.
Yeah.
I mean, something like Union Station in Washington, D.C. was almost demolished because people thought the structure was unsalvageable.
Oh, my goodness me.
Did
you have was there a movement then? Was there like a big movement to stop the momentum of getting rid of some of these big stations? Did you have like a Betjeman figure in the US, or did it just end up sort of happening by kind of federal laziness?
It was sort of it was sort of a reaction to the demolition of Pennsylvania Station in New York City, which is the Pennsylvania Railroad's main gateway into New York City. What they did is they demolished the head house, which is this wonderful Greco-Roman space. They replaced it with this sort of underground concourse, which they built Madison Square Garden on top of. And this is like this was the moment that kicked off sort of the popular historic preservation movement in the United States, because it was such an incredible building that everyone knew was irreplaceable. But the Pennsylvania Railroad wanted to monetize that real estate, and they owned a big share in, I think, the New York Knicks, and also one of the hockey teams. Which one is the Islanders? I think it's the Islanders, not the Islanders. It might be the other one. They owned a share in a bunch of sports teams because they were doing corporate diversification. So well, what if we tear down our grand train terminal and build a sports stadium on top? Ugh. So they did it.
I mean, that does not feel
still a rat hole.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we're not traditional architecture people. I realize that we're like, hooray, traditional architecture. No, we're not like we're not the traditional architecture Twitter account. However, there is value in making the place that people arrive to or leave from in a railway system pleasant. There is value to that, and it kind of encourages people to take the train more, which is also good.
And I mean, Penn Station's problems still has a lot of circulation problems, and they're all with none of them were with the original head house. It was all at track level, so none of the problems were solved by replacing it with an underground concourse. I mean, that is the one space where I'll be like the traditional architecture guy. Yeah. I think they should build it back exactly as it was.
Yeah, wipe out Madison Square Gardens and just put it back exactly as it was. Yeah, I'd be up for that. The
other side of this equation is where you have a huge train station now for embarrassingly bad train service, which we should have put on a slide of Cincinnati Union Terminal here.
Is it very? Wait a minute, I'm going to get a picture up.
Yeah, it's a smart idea. That's a good looking station.
Which one is it? Cincinnati.
Cincinnati Union Terminal.
Union terminal. I need to stop saying station and start doing terminal. There we are. Oh god! Oh wow! Okay, yeah, that's very nice. Here is a single picture which I'm going to put up on screen now.
Yeah.
That's nice.
How many trains a day do you think go there?
Oh dear. Like, I don't know, 40?
40.
Yeah.
You're optimistic.
Oh.
That's very optimistic.
Oh gosh, okay. Less? 20?
Less.
Oh. 10?
Less.
Firstly, how big is this station? Like, are we talking... I mean, this looks pretty huge to me. This looks
Most
like
of it was demolished for an intermodal terminal, at least the platform side.
Oh golly! So we're going less than 5?
Less.
Oh my goodness. 2.
Yes, 2 trains, 3 days a week.
Oh my goodness me!
You know
Well,
when they get there?
No wonder people. Oh my goodness! 2 trains, 3 days a week. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
You know when they come in.
When?
It's like 2 a.m. It's the Amtrak's most unreliable service, the Cardinal.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Why would you waste? I mean, this station is stunning. I mean, it's bonkers. It's a little bit of
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going
Cincinnati
on
is
there.
not a small place either. It's a big city.
What the hell? Why is it? Why? It's. Oh dear. Look at it. It's got a dinosaur skeleton in it. What?
Yes.
Why? Why has it got a dinosaur skeleton in it?
It's a museum. Most of it's a museum now.
Ah, okay. Well, there we go. And
Yeah.
okay, there it is. Okay, yeah, certainly they've turned it into like a freight terminal now. But the station building, the terminal is stunning. This does not look like a small settlement.
Oh yeah, Cincinnati is a big place. It was the densest city in the United States for a while. They also have a whole never used subway system in this city.
Wait, what?
They built the subway system and they ran out of money before they could put it in service, and so it's never been used.
Please tell me that at least it is being looked after such that at some point they can turn it into that.
Well, they put a 40-inch water main in one of the tunnels.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So that pretty much writes off. Ah, fantastic. Ah, man. We were supposed to be talking about good things. Oh, dear. This is a visualization, but it does actually look like this. We're back to the 30th Street. It does look like this. Here is a picture of real people running around.
Yes, I use it frequently. Well, not as frequently as I used to, but it's a very nice station. Also, very nice little Cajun place off to the side called Beck's Cajun Cafe. You can get this thing called a train wreck. It's like a Cajun cheesesteak, but it has every kind of meat on it. It's wonderful.
That sounds like, I mean, something I need to write down and then make happen in my face. It sounds excellent. That sounds absolutely awesome.
Very good.
Having had a plastic tub of not unreasonably mediocre tarka for dinner, I am now hungry again. Excellent. Which is not so good at half midnight. Anyway, right. So the next slide is about yeah, this is a good one. No franchising.
No franchising.
Yes.
You will not have to deal with any private corporations while riding the rails here in America. Usually, well, not directly. You will have to deal with them putting you in a siding so an empty coal train can go past 2 hours from now. But
oh dear,
you will not have to deal with Richard Branson. You will not have to deal with, I don't know, First Coach, whatever it is, whoever owns which railroads over there.
Yeah, mostly European national operators. Actually, it's mostly the European state operators. It's they're like money-making brand offshoots that run most of the services in GB. Hooray!
Is it like Cialis and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. And Arriva and what's the other one? Abellio. That's the Dutch one. Yeah. Yep.
The nice thing is Amtrak services are operated by Amtrak. So, you don't have to worry about, and especially if you're in the Northeast Corridor, they also control the tracks. Like it's one corporate structure that owns everything. Now, out of the Northeast Corridor, of course, they sort of run at the pleasure of the freight railroads. So, you know, you gotta watch out for those long distance services. But in some areas, Amtrak is very good.
Yeah. It's one of these things where it always feels like untapped potential, because actually there's so much good railway infrastructure that I'm sure it wouldn't take a huge amount of effort and maybe the odd additional passing loop to turn quite a lot of these lines, rather than being like arriving in Cincinnati at 2 a.m., into actually a reasonably intensive regional service, right? It cannot be a tremendous leap in infrastructure provision to achieve that. I mean, surely a lot of it is operational and about incentives of the freight companies, right?
Oh yeah, a huge amount of this is like operational problems as opposed to actual physical capacity of the infrastructure. And I think one of the problems is, of course, just the inherent way freight operates in the United States is that, like, trains kind of leave when they need to leave as opposed to operating on a strict schedule.
Yep.
The freight railroads like to, try to keep as much scheduled service off the rails as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Which makes sense.
But it's kind of it leads to strange situations. Like, I grew up in the suburbs of Washington D.C. I used to take the commuter train into school every day, the Virginia Railway Express, which was eventually taken over by Keolis. So the non-Amtrak services, you still get this European operator problem. And so they would. Their big operational constraint was one bridge that was owned by CSX called the Long Bridge. And they would only allow 40 non-CSX train movements a day across the bridge for any reason. This is a 2-track bridge.
Oh, crikey. Yeah, okay. That seems unfair, given that bridge probably can carry, I don't know, more trains than that.
It could probably carry 40 trains in an hour.
Yeah. Oh dear. So actually, is it the case that, I know we're digressing slightly, is it the case that actually federal government almost needs to sort of step in and assert itself a bit? I don't know, what's the way forward? What do you see as a solution?
Well, I mean, I think the solution is, right now the situation is the railroads get fined for holding up Amtrak trains, right? And of course, to a certain extent, when you have a train that really needs to be somewhere, sometimes it's worth it to pay the fine.
Yeah. And it's easier to stop a passenger train than a massive freight train, right?
This is also true. Yes. I mean, I think a lot of it is ultimately maybe we ought to invest in dedicated passenger infrastructure. Because a lot of the trains that have the largest delays are kind of like the really long distance ones, like the Empire Builder or the Southwest Chief, the stuff that runs from Chicago to Seattle or to Los Angeles. Or I think the Southern Crescent is another one that gets big delays. That's New York City to New Orleans. And, a lot of the stuff, it doesn't make sense to run it as the only train to these cities.
Yeah. Like,
maybe you should have shorter regional services rather than everyone has to rely on this one. Or the Crescent that runs through Cincinnati, right? That maybe it would make a little bit more sense if there was a Cincinnati to Chicago train as opposed to a Chicago to New York train that runs via Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the distances are so huge in the US. The sorts, we've the longest trains that we have running are our cross country services that run from, I don't know, like Aberdeen to Penzance, maybe is like an example of probably one of the longest ones. And okay, that's running like what is that, like 600 kilometers or something like that? I don't know. I don't exactly know, but that sort of order of magnitude. It's pretty long service, but comparatively, that's pretty short compared to a lot of, and that's stopping in loads of places. And also there are 4, like in some instances, 3 or even 4 an hour at peak time, like an hour. So, yeah.
And you got there's big logistical and equipment problems with trying to run a train that takes 2 days end to end, once a day each way.
Yeah.
The Canadians have it worse. They run the one Toronto to Vancouver train, I think, takes the better part of a week.
Good grief.
And they are still trying to run it once a day, but I think Via is going to try and cut that down next year, because Via Rail is like, imagine Amtrak but worse, more cuts.
Yeah, oh crikey. So what you basically need is a bit like my kind of UK utopia, which is you need a load of regional and sort of S-train services focused on urban hubs, and then high-speed
Yes.
rail connecting all the urban hubs, right?
That would be the ideal situation, yeah.
So
And one of the nice things, of course, is that so much of the United States is so flat. You could even start between city pairs that no one would consider in Europe to be close together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I think Denver to Kansas City is 500 miles.
Yeah.
Right? But you're running the train dead straight that whole way, and there's nothing in the way but farms.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you should go for 250. Maybe you should go for 270.
Yes,
whatever.
sod it. Just absolutely go crazy. Yeah, go wild. If you're gonna test, like if the French can do it, why can't the US just start running their trains at put it all as slab tracks so you don't blow dust at everyone, and then boom, run all your trains at 270 miles an hour. That'd be nice.
Or just blow dust at everyone. There's nothing there.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. People often joke about like, oh man, we've gone off on a massive segue and we're already like an hour and 38 in. I'm so sorry, Justin. We're like people.
I got nothing to do.
Yeah, people often talk in the UK. They're like, "Oh, boo to high speed too. Why can't you build rail next to motorways?" It's like, well, motorways in the UK are pretty weavy. Actually, they're pretty curvy. The interstates, less so, right? In the US, I kind of feel like that is a dedicated infrastructure corridor you probably can make use of for quite long stretches of.
Depends on which interstate, but yes. So like in the East Coast where there's terrain. Not so much.
Yeah. It's more like Europe.
Sort of,
now, the East Coast is more from like it's more European, more hilly and things in the way and towns and all sorts.
In the West, we have this wonderful thing called the Jefferson Grid, which is how land was plotted out after the Louisiana Purchase, and basically everything is a 1 mile grid for thousands of miles.
Wow.
And every farm is 1 mile by 1 mile square. And so you do have these continuous corridors of like 2-lane road that go for 1,000 miles.
That kind of feels like purpose-built transport corridor sort of material.
I've been assured that it's impossible to build high-speed rail in America, though.
Well, that's true. I mean, all the evidence suggests that, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. We're not even going to mention Caltrain because.
Oh boy.
Just come on, folks. Just make it happen. Don't. Anyway, right. Right. We're coming back to freight because freight is awesome in the US.
Yeah, freight
so
is
we're
good.
going to talk about carload freight. So number 11, carload freight. And here, I forgot this picture. Yeah. We have some graffiti.
We do have some graffiti. The graffiti is another good thing in the United States.
That should have been an entry. We should have put that as a number. That was a mistake.
Just put that in the front.
Yeah.
So one of the nice things we have in the United States is carload freight, right? The idea is, you're not shipping freight in a container. You're not shipping it. You can have rail freight that never goes on a truck. It's just a train from the start to the end, right? And this is good because it means there are no trucks on the road at any point. It's more efficient, and you can, a railroad car is a lot bigger than a container, right? And this is largely right now reserved for sort of big bulky items like rolls of newsprint, lumber, like a lot of auto parts travel this way. It used to be everything, of course, but now it's more specialized stuff. But there's this is a wonderful way to deliver stuff without having to have a big 53-foot truck screwing up neighborhoods and stuff.
Yeah.
And some places they're even trying to some places you still have a lot of freight delivered in urban areas this way, keeping trucks off the road. We did a whole episode on this on well, there's your problem about urban freight systems.
Really good episode, actually, because it's something that certainly in the UK it's a problem. It's a major shortcoming in that we just rely hugely on trucks, right? Massively. Yeah. I'm sure it's an issue in the US as well, but in the UK particularly, it's just a real problem, and it's also a problem in that we've got a colossal driver shortage. Like it's already chronic. So logistically, like even if you forget the greenhouse gas emissions and all the children that the HGVs run over, like there aren't going to the ability for us to rely entirely on trucks is finite, even just looking at drivers, and also this whole thing called the planet being on fire. That's also a reason to have less trucks. So it's a real problem. But the trouble is, all the good space for doing like municipal logistics got turned into I don't know, what did it got turned into an Aldi or got turned into apartments, got turned into council housing, that then got sold off to landlords.
Yeah,
that's like a downhill trajectory. Fine, council housing, good, okay, fair enough. Frustrating for them, and then immediately downhill. Yeah. So it's a real challenge. So it was a really interesting episode, actually. That one, and also deeply frustrating and upsetting when you see how good urban logistics was.
There was this one image I never quite figured out how to find for that episode, which was there was some kind of major strike. From a gas station attendant strike, or no, it was a truck driver strike in Detroit. And there was one gas station in the city that got its gasoline delivered by rail. And it was the only gas station operating in the city. It was sometime in the 40s.
Queues of cars, just, oh my goodness.
Yeah, who's laughing now? The train wins again.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. That is awesome. So tell us a little bit about this particular graffiti artist of a picture that I believe that you sent. Tell us about this.
So this is so in the United States, there's like a lot of graffiti because cars are left unattended on sidings for a long time. So someone can come up and do a bunch of graffiti on it, which is nice. Unless you're like old fuddy-duddy boomer, in which case, oh my God, they're wrecking property, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's still a perfectly functional boxcar.
They're painting it for free.
Yeah, exactly, right? One of the things which is interesting is a lot of graffiti artists now have learned that if you don't paint over the reporting marks, they don't repaint the car until they really have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, this particular one, this is actually a relatively prolific graffiti artist who goes by the I don't know much about the graffiti community, but he goes by he always just paints sluts on the side of the car. He or she, it may be a she as well. And this is of course Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, the connection not entirely clear, but the graffiti artist this is their thing. Yeah.
This is their thing. Yeah, I think they did another car that was the guy from The Mask on there, and it's highly entertaining. I enjoy graffiti. Lots of people get really mad about it, and those people you shouldn't interact with those people.
I'm all for, like, I love a good bit of. All the old coal wagons get a hefty slathering of graffiti in GB, but. Yeah, generally we don't have enough stuff that gets graffiti. It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't. We have too many high barriers and CCTV cameras. We're mildly
people
fast
get
country.
mad at you if you graffiti passenger cars, especially.
Yeah, it's true.
I've noticed tank cars getting it a lot recently. I get a lot of back and crude trains running through Philly here, and they've all started getting graffiti on them all of a sudden.
So my last trip to the big city of London, I was there, and somehow all of South London had been graffitied. All of it had been tagged, like all the railways, like all the railway corridors, like a lot of the urban railways in South London, and there are a lot of them, are like in cuttings or on bridges with sort of parapets. Everything had been tagged, and it had happened in like a month. It was incredibly impressive logistical operation to get it all done. I was very impressed. Yeah. It's good work.
I'm just amazed at the staying power, because I tried to get a rattle can and just mark off my parking space so people would start parking there, and that that paint went away instantly.
Yeah.
It was just gone.
Just immediately.
If you're a graffiti artist, please contact me so you can mark my parking space.
Yeah. Graffiti here, please. The trouble is, you mark the
Yeah.
graffiti here, please, and I'll immediately be washed away, and they just don't know. Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
So, right, okay, we're getting into controversial territory now.
Yes.
So, there's a video coming up. So the T1 Trust, in a minute, you're going to tell, after this video plays, you're going to tell us about what on earth this means, because I'm sure a lot of my majority British viewership will not know what this is, because we're imperialists. So, here's a video, which has sound. This is York Station, actually. Now, what do you know about what is in York as a locomotive? And no, not this sausage-machined EMD. There's somewhat of an irony in what you're about to witness. Yes. And that's not even the end of it. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a sausage sandwich.
Oh, it's the Germans.
The Germans are coming.
The Germans are here.
Yeah.
They finally did it. Everyone who's talking about the Blitz spirit right now should hang their heads in shame.
So, yeah, that's Mallard not very much not in steam, getting pushed by a combination of American and German traction. Anyway, yeah. So on that bombshell, we have to bring this absolutely stunning picture up, and you need to tell us all about this.
All right, so this is a Pennsylvania Railroad T1 duplex locomotive, right? So one of the problems you had in sort of the very late era of steam was like, for a long time, steam locomotives had been something called free steaming, right? That means no matter how high the throttle setting was, you could not run out of steam from the boiler, right? So, you made the cylinders bigger so they could use more steam. At some point, you couldn't make those cylinders bigger. So the Pennsylvania Railroad and the Baltimore and Ohio and a couple other railroads decided to experiment with this concept called the duplex, right? And what the duplex is it's not an articulated locomotive like the Big Boy or something like that. This is a rigid frame. It just has an extra pair of cylinders because they're generating so much steam they can't fit them all into one set.
Good grief. Okay, that's some welly.
Yeah, so and these locomotives, I mean, the first couple they made were just complete failures. The B&O in particular tried to do the second set of cylinders in reverse, which looked really good, but a bunch of dirt got in the cylinders, So the new configuration was the cylinders both went the same way. So this is a 4-4-4-4. Rumor is this was the T1 was a production class of locomotives. It went and they were very successful. Their only problems was there were certain curves east of Pittsburgh they could not negotiate very well, so they were only used west of Pittsburgh, and they would, I think, maybe west of Harrisburg actually, and the rumor was these locomotives regularly went faster than the Mallard in service.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I see where the controversy lies here. So what you're trying to do is the only thing we have was that we were making our steam trains go at 126 miles an hour when everyone had realized that electricity was a thing. That you're taking it away from us.
You made it go 126 miles an hour once.
We did manage it once, and and this was achieving it regularly in service. But you didn't have a dynamometer, so it doesn't count.
It's worse than that. Pennsylvania Railroad had a number of newfangled innovations that were attached to these locomotives. They had cab signaling. They had something called the train phone, which was like a pre-radio communication device which worked by electromagnetic induction in telegraph wires adjacent to the track. It was really wild.
Wow.
They had all kinds of high technology in here. What they did not do was install a speedometer. You were expected to gauge the speed from feeling and from occasionally timing the mileposts.
There's your problem. You know, you cannot claim the record if you don't have a speedo in the train.
There's lots of anecdotal evidence of runs where this locomotive must have been going 120, 130, some people say 150 miles an hour.
What?
But of course, no evidence. So and all of these were scrapped, unfortunately. All of the Pennsylvania
really?
Railroad's largest, highest tech locomotives were scrapped because they weren't thought of as historical artifacts when the railroad dieselized. You know, they weren't like because they kept like this historical collection at a roundhouse at Northumberland, Pennsylvania, which eventually became the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania in Strasburg. But all of these were scrapped. But now a bunch of idiots have gotten together and they've decided we're going to build a new one.
Hooray! Absolutely love those idiots.
Yeah, I know. Number 5,550. And they were mocked and ridiculed when the project started. And they just got the whole boiler put together a few weeks ago.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The question is, where on earth are they going to run it?
That's what I've always been wondering. I understand they have a bunch of offers for places to run it. I don't know where they're going to get it up to speed, because that is one of the stated goals. Is we're going to beat the Mallard. Oh. We're going to do it.
That's it. You're going to take it from us. The only thing we have. You're going to take it from us. I mean, to be fair, it looks like a submarine mounted on a there's a lot of steampunk going on there. It's quite spectacular.
Oh yeah, this is one of the. No, this is a production model. I thought this was the prototype for a second. The prototype, I think, looked a little better, but
oh really?
The Raymond Loewy styling got a little bit rounded off for the production models.
Okay. I'll have to get Googling for that. That's quite spectacular. Yeah. But not tonight. I shall pause it, given that we're rapidly approaching the 2-hour mark, and I was hogging your time before that as well. So we shall, given that we're about to have the only good thing that we managed to achieve, other than the NHS in the 20th century, taken from us. Yeah. Here we go. So. That's it. We are ending on that. That is literally the ending note of the whole thing. You've denied us that and said that. So the railroads in the US are good. Actually, there are good things.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is
good things happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully, that's been insightful for the viewers and listeners. We have people who listen to this as well. Like, it's a fundamentally audio visual format, and yet there's quite a number of people listen to this thing on like Spotify and stuff. It's crazy. I don't understand it. Like, yeah. In any case,
same thing with my podcast.
Yeah, fundamentally these are image based. Anyway, but thanks to everyone who is listening on various audio platforms. All are available. Go listen. That possibly. I think some people prefer it to the visuals. Maybe it's easier to have it like my dulcet tones sinking into the background. I don't know. Also, supportings so the Discord is a thing where lots of discussions happen. So feel free to go onto it, garethdennis.co.uk/discord. And also you can throw pennies at me on PayPal. And if you want to support me and also spot, like, the people who are currently on the Discord know who I'm currently recording this episode with because they're on the Patreon. It's all very confusing. I didn't set the Patreon up because I didn't know what it was. I didn't set the Discord up and didn't set Patreon up, and people told me these were good ideas, so I did them.
People say Discord's a good idea, and then they have to moderate it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a team who moderate mine for me. Although maybe they're going to coup and take it over from me. That could also happen, I suppose. So.
Watch out for the teenage Maoists.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's yeah. I did notice. Anyway, so there's that. Oh, right, commercials. Justin.
Yes, time for my commercial. Hi, I'm Justin Roczniak. I'm the host of Well, There's Your Problem. It's a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. We do a podcast every week. It's a good long podcast. You get your money's worth. I mean, the amount of money for the free episodes is obviously free. We just did a fun one about 5/1s, which are this kind of development in the United States we have where you build 1 floor of concrete and 5 floors of wooden apartments on top. And it's all actually really made of oil. It's not really made of wood. It's all plastics, So we discussed how bad this is.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it's bad.
It's not good.
No. Particularly the pictures where it all goes very red and spiky. Yes.
I think fire is the least of your problems in these buildings. That's the thing. At least so far.
And that's not all though, because there are also bonuses.
Yes, we at time of recording we just released the bonus episode on Group B Rally. This is the one with the fast boxy cars. And you get that if you donate at our $2 Patreon level each month. You get 1 bonus episode. And if you think about this, $2 for, I don't know, at least an hour and a half of entertainment, that's not so bad, right?
It's highly, highly good value. It's
yes.
Yeah. And also Group B is all. I was pleased. Alice was like alluding to Group B, and I was like, "Are they going to do an episode on Group B?" And then it turned out you're doing an episode on Group B, because Group B is like one of my. I'm not allowed to talk about cars much because I'm a big non-car advocate, but also you can like cars and not think that cars are the solution to all of our transport problems. Group B is awesome.
Crucially, I think race car is separate from transportation.
Particularly a race car that. Particularly when the race car is also like a cannonball. That like the human inside it has barely, if any, control over.
I don't think any of us are advocating for everyone to drive around in Group B rally cars all the time.
Although that could actually be a problem solver as well, maybe.
You would get places quicker, assuming you got there.
Yeah, I mean, I think greenhouse gas emissions would reduce. Anyway,
yes,
the people would very rapidly. The number of drivers would peak and then rapidly fall. In any case, so go and subscribe to Patreon. Watch these bonus episodes. They're good. They're really good.
Yes.
Thank you. That was the commercial. So next week, which isn't next week at all, it's actually the 13th of January. Wait, what does that make this? Does that make this the 10th of January? Is that how this works? I don't know. I've no idea what date this actually is, because that's a calendar issue.
I don't know anything anymore.
2020 is just. I've lost track of what time is. No, that can't be right. It's the 6th, which means that it's the 13th. Yeah, so this is the 6th of January that everyone's seeing this. So the 13th of January is going to be about the South Wales Metro. Yes. With James Bennett is going to join us and tell us what it is, because at the moment I've said very mean things about it, but apparently it's not so bad, so we're going to find out.
Is this the Gadget Bond thing?
No. That's the Cambridgeshire Autonomous Metro, which is a failure on all 3 fronts. It's not entirely within Cambridgeshire. It isn't autonomous. It explicitly states in its documentation that it isn't autonomous, and it isn't a metro. So it's really well named Gadget Band there. Yeah, really good.
So I don't know why things can't just be driverless. We have a whole history of driverless things for like 50 years now. No, I have to add a camera on the front, and I have to have it running Windows XP or some crap.
It's running like some industrial version of NT that everyone's lost the manual and the key for. Like the DLR works. That's fine. Like actually, it's pretty fine. Like that.
Just have some like relays running the whole thing.
Oh my god,
this is not hard.
It's not hard. In any case, we're going to thankfully not be talking about this, and hopefully the South Wales Metro isn't going to be a gadget ban. We shall find out in this episode. Justin, that's been fantastic. I'm going to bring your face back. Here we are. Here it is next to me. There it is. Thank you.
Hello.
Very
it's
good.
Me.
You've gone orange for some reason, which is a bit strange.
I have gone orange. I was blue earlier. It's because I've had a couple beers since we started, so my face has gone all flush.
Yeah, well, It's the best thing. I've been drinking. I've been drinking 2 things: Brewdog, which is like my local from where I grew up, which is not bad, but also pretty generic London Camden Pale. So that's what I've been drinking.
I was having a Yards IPA over here.
Ooh, lovely. That's nice. So is that like a local? Oh, let's not do beer. Oh my god, we could talk about beer for hours. Let's not do that. It sounds Yards IPA sounds good.
It is local. It's from right on the waterfront in Philly.
Oh, lovely. That's nice. it only remains for me to say thank you so much for joining for this ridiculously long episode. This escalated. Oh my god, it escalated a lot.
It's unfortunate it happens.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But hopefully everyone watching is enjoying.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you're not doing anything, and neither am I. I'm going to go to bed and have a 4-hour sleep, and then get up for work. Oh dear. That's been fantastic. I'm looking forward to. The good thing is I don't have to do any editing, so that's great. So I just I all I can say is thanks and cheerio to all the viewers. Hooray! Thank you. Cheerio.